Very good morning to one and all.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
I'm going to share my desktop so that you are able to view my presentation. So, is it my desktop visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Fine. So, this is what the thing we are going to see today. The subject code is UCIT 301. The subject name is Object Oriented Programming and Data Structures. And the topic we are going to today discuss is overloading. This is what we are going to discuss. The agenda I planned, another planned or attendance at the start and end of the session, then introduction about myself, etiquettes, learning objectives and outcome, recap of previous class, introduction about the topic, explanation about the topic, summarization, Q&A, feedback if any. This was the session I planned. So as it is, I'm going to take the attendance. So students, please unmute your audio so that you are able to mark your presence. Sriram Balaji, Akshaya, Subramani,
Present, sir.
Vishwa,
Present, sir.
Raghuman,
Present, sir.
Udayanidhi, Ram Prasad, Ashwak, okay. Okay. We are moving to our session. So far I discussed about the introduction about myself and etiquettes. So I'm going to skip those two things and straight away going for this learning objective and outcome. The learning outcome for unit number 1 is to use object-oriented programming to implement data structures. Yes, am I audible and clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If any distortion means, please let me know so that I will make a correction.
Sure.
Thanks. Thanks for the response. And while you're completing your unit number 1, you are able to get good understanding in the fundamentals of OOP, which includes class scope, constructors, destructors, and overloading concepts. So this is what we are going to discuss today, the class scope and overloading concepts. Okay, ma'am. So I will just refresh the previous class topic so that you can have a smooth continuation with the current one. So last class we discussed about the structure. We completed the first topic, that is overview of C++, and then we switched on to the second one, that is structure of C++. So in that structure, we discussed the first thing was header file, that is library functions. After that, some cases we can also have the definition of variables, some cases functions also. So that can be shortened with hash define. That is also comes under a part of the header file portions. So those are all called in specific as pre-processor directives. That is what the second thing. The third thing, most of the programs consist of the containers sense class and main function. Some programs we can also able to write without the class. All the programs does not require the security portions at all, because if you are trying a simple additional or subtraction or even a calculator program, that doesn't mean you are going to provide security, because it's simple program, even though the coding was available everywhere in the internet, if you surf means. So on those cases you are not supposed to write the same program with the class. So not all the programs or problems requires the containers, that is data encapsulation and data abstraction. So far we discussed those things only for the biggest program or biggest application deployment. That is what. So some cases we can have the class with the class name, some cases may not. So after the class, we are having the main function. So within that, we are having the keywords and then variables. So we discussed about the variables. So in that variables, we discussed about the data type and the variable declaration, variable initialization, the lifetime of the variable, scope of the variable. So lifetime within that class, within that main function, the lifetime gets over for the variable. The scope, if you are coming to the scope, we can have the local scope, we can have the global scope for the variable. So if it is defined under the class, if it is defined, I mean declared and initialized under the main function, it is going to have only the local scope. But if it is defined using the hash defined function under the second part, that is below the header files, then it can be going to act as a global variable or the variable having global scope. That is what up to this only we discussed so far in our last class. So we are going to see the rest of the thing. So up to this only we discussed in the last class. So students, are you able to see this PDF?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Thanks for your response. And while we coming for the data type, uh, we already know about the data types already available, because we already discussed the C program in our first year. During your first year, you studied already FOCP, so you somewhat know about data types. Can anyone list the data types available, the basic data types available? So without saying,
Integer, character,
yeah,
float.
integer, character, float,
Can
then
uint,
what for? UINT, UINT,
uint. Yes, sir.
UINT. Okay, okay. I'm not asking much deeper. If we go much deeper, means there are so many data types available, but I'm asking about the basic
Long,
things. That's it. So integer you told, float you told, and then character you told. One more.
long,
Uh,
sir.
Long. In some cases, I mean, in other words, you can tell that as a double. So double. Then in addition to that, we are
Boolean, sir.
having string data type and Boolean data type. That is what the thing. So we already know about that integer. It is, there are so many things. That is integer, short integer, long integer. So I'm not going much deeper into that. So integer, in general, integer is specifically meant for whole numbers. Then the next one, float, is specifically meant for decimal point numbers. In the sense, after a decimal, we are having some fractional points. Then the next one, character. Character is going to indicate the single letter enclosed within single quotes. That is what. So if it is enclosed with single quotes, it is called as the character. If it is enclosed with double quotation, it's going to be called as a string. But in the programming point of view, for the both, we are going to notate that as character only. That is CHAR only. For string data type also. The differentiation lies only in the letter and the word. That is the quotation also. If it is single quotes, character, double quotes, string. Then Boolean data type also available. What this means? If if you want to put a question like yes or no, then or true or false some cases, then you can choose this Boolean data type. In short, it's going to be called as bool. That is what the simple outline about this data type. Then there are one more thing, typecasting and the operator precedence. So after that we are moving to our real topic, that is overload. So what is meant by typecasting? In the upcoming units, we are going to see in detail about this typecasting. But right now, I'm going to tell the simple outline. So what is typecasting means? As the name itself, it reveals that type, and then we are going to cast. So casting in the sense we are going to change. That is what the typecasting. For example, if I used the data type for average as integer, but actually I need it is in the floating point. Means there are some default typecasting available with the compiler itself. The compiler itself typecasts some data types. For the biggest problem, we are going to specify the typecasting. There are so many things available. We are going to see in the rest of the units. We are going to convert the basic to basic conversion type, basic to classic, sorry, basic to class, class to basic. There are so many things available under typecasting. But basically, if you want to change from one data type to another data type, we are going to use this typecasting operation. That is what the operators, I mean typecasting operation was. Then uh, under the class, we discussed about variables. We discussed somewhat about the data types, and there are some operators available. We are also going to use that operators too within our class or main function. So, can anyone tell what are the operators so far we discussed in FOCP? I mean, I asked in C because C++ is the advancement of C only. Apart from that, some operators get added in C++. So, can anyone tell that what are the operators available in C? Is are able to follow my question?
Sir, and
Ah, and
then the
not
star, sir.
star.
Yes, sir. We will use the star symbol right on the name purpose.
You are telling individually. I'm asking collectively.
Generally, arithmetic operators,
Yeah, that is what. Yeah, tell
logical
Vishnu.
operators,
Arithmetic operator, logical operator, then
then
relational operators.
relational operators,
Yeah,
assignment
relational operators, assignment operators. Exactly. Then one more, bitwise operator. So these are some of the operators. I mean, in the C, the same thing we are also having. That is the same concept replicated to C++ also. That is what I. That's the reason I asked. Sharif, you are also correct. Shokeva,
Okay, sir.
you're also correct. But I asked collectively. You told individually. And comes under logical operation and star comes under arithmetic operation. You also correct, but I asked collectively. That is what the thing. So the first one in the operators. Operators means first one is arithmetic and second one is relational, then logical, then the next one is bitwise and assignment. These are some of the operators replicated from the C. In addition to that, we are having two more operators. This one is increment and decrement operator, and the next one, the second one is co-resolution operator. That is what we are going to see in our today's class. This increment operation, decrement operation. So what it's meant by this increment operation or decrement operation means, mm, yeah, increment operation, we are having two plus symbols combinedly, and then decrement operation we are having two subtraction operation collectively. So these are the two things, plus plus and minus minus. That is what this is for incrementing, this is for decrementing. And there are two things available under this. There is this plus plus also can takes two forms, minus minus also takes two forms. For example, I am telling, mm, code, then hash include H. Friends, are you able to see my C++ screen?
Yes, sir.
Everyone? Everyone. Yeah, okay, fine. Thanks. Then I am going to use void main simple and don't want to use that class at all. Here, if I using integer a is equal to 1, or okay, we can put it as 2. Then now I am using a plus plus, putting semicolon. Now I am printing cout a. Making compilation and then making the output. So the output listed for myself is a is equal to 3. But what I can actually give means a is equal to 2. So the logic behind this are, so here I give plus plus and then the variable name. So here I stated as variable name a. So I put this a. Some cases if you are putting b here, then you want to put b here. That is what the thing. So whatever the variable name listed here, you are going to use as a prefix. So this increment operation we are going to call as prefix operation. That is prefix increment operation. We can also use this a after the increment operator. Now the same operator going to be called, or it going to taken a different flavor called as post decrement operator. So post increment, pre increment operation. Now it is going to be called as post increment operation. Now the same program, if I execute this Alt F9 and then Control F9. Now the output is also a is equal to 3. So what is the thing? Maybe logic behind this was, for each and thing we are having the same. Now I am going to use a is equal to 3. I am going to say the program .cpp. Then if I am execute the same Alt F9, then I am also going to use the clear screen. CR. I'm going to use Alt F9 and then Control F9. So now the operation is A is equal to 4. Actually, I forgot to put that clear screen so that the previous operation taken off. That is what. So now A is equal to 4. Output was A is equal to 4. So what is the logic behind this means in the A plus plus, the A plus plus, I will take the same thing to the notepad. So A plus plus, then A plus plus A. So actually, this is called as the compound statement. This A plus 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 A is also called as compound statement because we are going to club the two more statements into one statement. That is, for the expansion for this A plus plus or plus plus A are A is equal to 1. Then A is equal to A plus 1. So this here the A plus 1 indicates the actual initialization of that variable. Actually, what I did in the program is A is equal to 3. That is what I did as an example. Now, after that, A is equal to A plus 1. That is what. So, pre-increment, post-increment means this is a pre-increment. So, actual initialization of the variable, then one gets added to that particular variable. What happens in the plus plus A means the reverse operation. So here the same thing, but it's going to taken as a reverse. A is equal to A is equal to A plus 1. After that only the value of A gets printed. So here whatever the value initialized taken, after that once one get added. But here, whatever the value, it gets added by 1, then only it's going to be printed. This is what the logic behind the A plus plus and plus plus A. If you understand this concept, then the decrement operation was very easy. Guys, are you able to follow me? Having any doubts?
No doubt.
I had some more, no more voice. No doubts? Shall I proceed?
No, sir.
No doubt.
Yeah. Okay. So plus plus A in the sense after the initialization of the variable, one gets added. In the post increment operation, one get added anyhow. Then only the operator, the output of the variable going to display. So next one is the decrement operation. Instead of plus plus, I am going to have minus minus. So here also minus minus. So the first one is called as the pre-decrement operator. This is one for pre-decrement and post-decrement operator. So the same thing, but here it's the minus. The thing is minus. This is what the thing we are seen so far. So if it is understood means we can move to the next portion, that is multiple assignments. Okay, shall I move to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Then the next one, multiple assignments, that is in the assignment operator. So multiple assignment in the sense we are assigning one value to the multiple variables. In each and every programming language having this concept called multiple assignment. In Python also we are having, in C also we are having, C++, Java. Every particular programming language has this option called or concept called multiple assignments. In the sense, the example was stated example n1 is equal to n2 within open parenthesis, n2 is equal to again within open parenthesis, n3 is equal to 0. So the 0 gets assigned to n1, n2, that is n1, then n2, then n3. So for these three things, the value 0 alone gets assigned. So how it is going to evaluate? So evaluation of the expression is first n3 is assigned with 0, then this entire 0, then this entire 1 gets assigned with n2, then this entire 1 gets assigned with n1. Why it is? Because means we are having the parenthesis. Some cases we can also give the same thing as n1 is equal to n2 is equal to n3 is equal to 0. We can also have like this n1 is equal to n2 is equal to n3 is equal to 0. So this is what the thing. So we can also give like this. If we are putting the parenthesis here, the value of n3. So indirectly we are telling that n2 is equal to n3. So the value of n3 is obviously 0. So the next step it going to assign us n2 is equal to 0. Typo. N2 is equal to 0 here. So in turn, if you are having the parenthesis here, then we are indicating indirectly to the compiler that n1 is equal to n2 and indirectly n1 is equal to 0. So n1 typo, n1 is equal to 0. This is what the multiple assignments. This is also possible because if you are declaring more than one variable with the same value, this is only for the same value. That is what the thing. Example, another example I am telling. If you are using x is equal to x comma y comma z. This also comes under multiple declarations, not with the assignment. Here, if you are using z is equal to 3, then putting the semicolon means only the z alone taken as 3, not x and y. If in that cases you want to use separately, that is x is y is equal to 8, x is equal to 9. Like that you want to define. But if you are having the value 3 for all x, y, z, then you can use this the first multiple assignments, or else you want to use this type of declaration and initialization only. Guys are able to follow me? Any
Yes.
clarification required? No.
No.
Okay, fine. So with this, we are moving to our real concept, that is operator overloading. So this is what the operator overloading. I will expand. Guys are able to see my screen, word screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thanks for your response. So now we are going to discuss about the topic called overloading. So under overloading, we are having two flavors. Before that, this overloading concept comes under which concept of OOP means the fourth concept, that is polymorphism. That is what the concept overloading comes. So I will put one small thing. So I'm going to delete all those things. Now polymorphism. Polymorphism. So under this polymorphism, we are having two things: compile time polymorphism and then runtime polymorphism. There are two things. First one, then second one. So under polymorphism, we are having compile time polymorphism, runtime polymorphism. Can anyone summarize what is the concept of polymorphism? I told earlier. If you are having any memory, just tell, or I will refresh that. One. If you know the answer means tell us, or otherwise I will explain. Okay, ba?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes means you know the answer means tell.
Sir, same name can be used in many forms, sir.
Same name can used in many forms. Not exactly, but
The
you somewhat touched. Tell me.
data can be used in more than one forms.
Yeah, exactly, Akshaya. Just like in the cinema Onion movie. Okay, va? So one person going to do the taken up three forms, one role and another role and one more role. Okay, va? The same thing in our programming we are going to do. So this polymorphism we are going to make a split, poly and then morphism. So poly means multiple, more than one form. Okay, va? So in the program, if you want to do one operation more than one form in the sense the particular operation want to perform its real work, and also in addition to that another work. If it is means you can use this polymorphism concept. So the definition definition is the data can be taken more than its one form. That is what the polymorphism. So example, you are a person. Basically, we are all humans. You are also human. In home, you are acting as a son or daughter to your parent. If you are come to street, you are the same person. You are acting as a societal personality. If you are if you are the same, you are coming to the road, you are going to be a citizen. That is, you are going to obey all the rules. If you are on the road, you want to follow the road safety rules. The same person, if you are coming to the college, you are acting as a student. So simply I am telling, you are a only one person, but you are a student, you are a son or daughter, you are a citizen, you are a social personality. So as a normal human being, you are going to act four personalities actually. That is what the polymorphism. In the programmatically or technically, what we are going to do means we are going to put some overloading work. Overloading in the sense to do additional work for the any function or any operator. So basically there are two categories under polymorphism. One is compile time polymorphism and another one is runtime polymorphism. Under compile time polymorphism, we are having two things, that is function and or function comma operator overloading. In the runtime polymorphism, we are having only one thing, that is called virtual function. So what is the thing here means, in the program itself, we are insisting some operator to take more than one form, or we are insisting some name, as Vishwa told, we are insisting some name to be actors or taken to multiple forms. That is what the function. Then what it is the runtime polymorphism means, during your runtime only the particular program going to take more than, or particular variable going to take more than one. That is what the virtual function. So virtual in sense that is not actually present, but it's we can sense that. That is what the virtual. So there are two categories: compile time, runtime. Under the function, under the compile time polymorphism, we are having function and operator overloading. So this is what we are going to discuss. Runtime polymorphism we are going to discuss in the upcoming units. That is what the thing. Guys, are you clear? Shall I move to the function overloading?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Fine. So function overloading, same function name for number of times for different purposes. Defining multiple functions with the same name is function overloading. Same name. So example I am telling area of the circle. You want to find area of the circle. So whether the area is specifically meant for square or circle or anything maybe, or you can use the same word area for every shapes. Are you able to follow my question, Pa? The
Yes,
word
sir.
area is specifically meant for square, or you can use to any other shapes. No. Are you getting my question? Are you getting my question, Pa? Not able to get my point. The name area is specifically meant for square object only or square shape only, or also possible to have the same name area to some other shapes. That is what my question. What are the formula you studied in max? Area of square, area of, is there anything? அப்பா படிச்சு மறந்து போச்சா? You forgot everything, the max?
Sir, எனக்கு அதிகமா இன்னும் கேட்கல சார், activity கேட்கல.
Oh, okay. So what I asked means area is the word that is specifically meant for the shape square, or it can be also applicable to some other shapes. That is what I asked.
We can use for some other shapes also, sir.
Some other shapes also, because there is area of circle, there is area of square, area of rectangle. There are so many things. So the word area is going to be also used with the square, also used with circle, also used with rectangle. This is simple thing. So simple thing, we are using the same one. Likewise area, we can also have the volume. If you take the volume of the sphere, volume of the cube, volume of the cone, so you can use the same word for the multiple shapes. This is what the function overloading. In the program for finding the volume of cube, we are having, or we are writing one formula. For finding the volume of cube, we are going to write one formula. For going to find the volume of a sphere, we are going to have the different formula. But in all under shapes, all under the shapes, it is under sphere, under say under cone, under cube, we are having the function name called volume. Or if you take the square, circle, rectangle, means under this we are having the same name called area. Are you able to follow me?
Yes,
Clear,
sir.
pa? Clear. Okay. So the same function name we are going to use in the different locations for or to perform different set of operations. For example, the area function under square is going to do only a squared, a into a. But the same thing, if you are going to use the particular area function to the circle, it's going to different. For the area function to the rectangle, it's going to be a different. So the principles of function overloading, are, if two functions have a similar type of data type and arguments, function cannot be overloaded. This is what the main thing we cannot do the all. I mean, we cannot perform all the functions with the same name. There are some constraints. So the first constraint, if two functions have similar type of data type or and arguments, then that function cannot be overloaded. Example, I will tell. I will take it in the C. Example, I will tell. Here, if I am using the function called integer main, sorry, integer add or integer area. Integer area. So here I am having integer a comma integer. So again I am having integer area. Now I am having same integer a comma integer, the same thing. So if the functions having area is the function name. So the function name having same data type and then same type of arguments. So here it is integer integer b. Some cases you can also have floats. Some cases we can also have float. So now if it is C means here data type different, maybe number of arguments same, but data type different. Here we can able to do the or perform the overloading operation. But in the previous case, the data type same, number of arguments also same. So we cannot perform the overloading operation under this area function name. That is what the first point. Then the second point, passing constant values directly instead of variable also results in ambiguity. Then the third one, to overcome this, declares the prototype declaration of all overload function before main function and also pass variable as an argument instead of values. So what is the meaning of this second and third point means the values, constant values directly passing instead of variable also results. That is, we cannot pass this value into the argument. That is what the second point. The third point, we can also use or declare the functions apart from the class function, that is apart from the main function. That is what the third point. We can also have the function within the class or outside the class. That is a different concept. That also I give some outline so that we are going to, I mean, we are able to understand or you are able to understand. Then we will wind up the session. So this is what the one first flavor. Now the second flavor is integer a is equal to 5, b is equal to 6. So like this, I'm having one function and some other function a is float a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, comma float c is equal to 3. Like this, if I'm having means here in this case there is no problem at all because I am passing the values to the variables. But some cases I am having a is equal to 5, comma b is equal to 6. Integer. So now if I pass like this also means it will result some ambiguity. That is what the thing. Uh, so why it is means some cases we can um, having the clash of the initialized variable with the past arguments. Arguments means A and B going to be act as an argument. So if we pass the value, if we pass the value, that is a constant value to the argument, that may leads to some ambiguity. That is what we are going to pass the. We are not supposed to pass the value entirely. If it is the compile time, we can not pass. If it is the runtime, we can pass. That is what the second point and third point. Then one more thing I want to tell, inside the class, outside the class. It means, I will tell that. So here I am having class. It is RAI. It's a class name I'm having. So within this, I'm having the access specifier as public, and then I'm using the function with the data type void. It means null. So void area typo void area. In this, I'm having integer a comma integer b. So next one, I'm having like this. In that area, I'm having as integer circle for QRE is equal to a into a. So after this, I'm closing this function, and afterwards I am closing the class with the help of the semicolon. So in the main function, I am going to call that function that is different. So here now within the class, this function gets wrapped up. Area function get wrapped under class name called RAI2. That is what. So this is called as the function inside the class. That is, the area function is the member of the class. So it is also called as the member function of the class. So this is what the technical name we are going to refer in the upcoming sessions. So member functions. And another thing is this variable square, this variable a is going to be a part of class, so it can be also referred as member variable. So whatever the variable defined, that is declared and initialized under class. First one. Second one, whatever the function you defined, you declared within the class means it is called as the member function. Are you able to understand the difference, Pa?
Yes, sir.
Member function means function name under class, variable name under class. So member variable is different, member function is different. This is what the thing. We can also, or as a programmer, you can also just declare the function inside the class and define the function outside the class also. That is also possible in the program. That is what I am going to do in the next one. That is, The same thing here I am doing. The thing I am doing here is I'm putting the semicolon so that it can be considered as a compiler as it is the declaration of the function. So void area int a is the declaration of the function. I'm going to define the same function outside the class. So outside the class means what I want to do means void area. Here only I'm going to use the additional operation using, I mean, comes under C++. In addition to C, we are having two more operators. I told that one is scope resolution operator and then increment decrement operator. Increment decrement operator so far we discussed. Now we are going to see about this scope resolution operator. So scope resolution operator in the sense class, then class name RAI, sorry, typo RAI2, then putting two semicolon. After that, I am having the function name and then I am pressing the enter. Now I am going to define all those things. So this particular line is very important. This is only we are going to call it a scope resolution operator. So how we are going to define means class RAI. So class name, and then we are having two semicolons. That's two semicolon alone. We are we are going to refer it as scope resolution operator. Then actually the function name and the number of arguments will taken place. Guys, is it clear to you? What is the use of scope resolution operator? Are you getting my point, or I want to explain one more time?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, clear. So the scope resolution operator comes into the picture when you are declaring the function under class, but defining the same function outside the class means scope resolution operator comes into the picture. So for the scope resolution operator, what are the syntax you want to follow means class name, then scope resolution operator, that is double colon, and then the function name, and then the number of argument whatever you are declared earlier. So this particular portion is called declaration, this particular portion is called definition. That is what the thing. So why the name scope resolution operator means once it is the semicolon placed after the class, is end of the brace, class end of the brace means compiler considered as end of the class. So once we declare this area like this means the area is situated or under class RAI2, but we are using the same name outside area, I mean outside the class. So the area function name has no meaning at all if it is defined outside the class. So we want to resolute the scope. It is a lifetime. In order to overcome this only, we are using this scope resolution operator. So which class we are going to use this scope resolution operator? For example, here I had only class RA2. Some cases I can also have class RA1. So in those cases, I want to specify whether the area function comes under class RA2 or area function comes under RA1. That is what the thing. So this is why I am prefixing class name, sorry, class and then the class name RA2. This is what the thing, that is member function inside the class member function outside the class. So the previous one we discussed is example for member function inside the class. Now the same example I rewrote as member function outside the class. This is what the thing. So if it is clear means next one we are moving to the function overloading examples. So example we discussed by tomorrow. So this is what the thing I want to share for this session right now. Guys, you are having any queries, any doubts?
No, sir.
No. Okay. If it is not, I am going for summarization, a small recap. So far we discussed about the operators, data types available under C++. So data types available under C++ are integer, float, double, and then string, then character, and then boolean. These are the data types available under C++. The operators available under C++ are arithmetic, relational, logical, bitwise, assignment. In addition to that, we are having increment, decrement operator, then at last scope resolution operator. This is what the operators, some basic operators available under C++. Then we are moving to the next concept called overloading. So before overloading, we want to know about polymorphism. So polymorphism means taking more than one form or multiple forms. So in that there are compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism having two flavors, that is function overloading and operator overloading. Runtime polymorphism having only one flavor, that is virtual function. Under this, we started function overloading. So it means the same function name can be used in different classes or with different function. You can also use in different function. We can also use in different shapes and different classes. That is what. So the same name can be referred to many objects. That is what the ultimate aim of using this function overloading. But the constraint is you cannot overload the function with the same data type and same number of arguments. And one more thing, we cannot pass the value. We cannot pass the constant value to the argument straight away. So instead, you can straight away initialize the variable within that function argument itself. That is what the constraint we want to make an account. So this is what the function. And one more thing we discussed is member function inside the class, member function outside the class. So the function name defined, declared, and defined under the class itself means no issues. But if you are declaring the function within the class, defining the function outside the class means the problem arises. So to overcome this problem, we are using the operator called scope resolution operator. The syntax for this is class name, scope resolution operator. After that, the function name with its parameters or arguments. Then we are going to define the function. So this is what we so far discussed in today's class. So you told that no Q&A. So I am conclude the session with the attendance. So one more time, make your presence. I mean, mark your presence. Guys, answer your attendance. I'll stop the recording.